Thanks, Sarah. So again, my name is Ryan Nicholson. I'm the Content Development Manager here at Bullhorn. First, I want to welcome you to the Support Tips and Tricks webinar. Today, we're going to cover some support tips and tricks. So we have a really great support team, and when you folks call in, we get a ton of different topics and items brought up to us. So we've taken a look at some of the top reasons that folks call in, and we're going to cover a couple of them here. But more importantly, what we're going to do when we talk about these tips and tricks is I want to provide you with, while I've got some great tips, I want to make sure that you come away from this webinar with skills to help you out when you're not at this webinar, when you're out in the field. Like I said, we've got a great support team. They're happy to help you with any issue that you face while using Bullhorn. But that being said, sometimes you just want a quick answer. Not everyone has time to hop on the phone or hop into a support chat. And in the case of some of you, you may not actually have the ability to contact support because you need to be in a counter support contact in order to get directly in contact with support. And if that person's out of the office for your company, if you're not in a counter support contact and you need help, you need to have some options available to you. Luckily, we've got a ton of options, right? Because you still need that issue resolved. So we're going to take a look at some tips and tricks, some of the top things that folks call in about, but we're also going to take a look at how do you find out what you don't know? Because when you don't know what you don't know, how do you get help? How do you figure out what's the best way to go about solving an issue? So we're going to go through that now. So it's going to be a two-part thing. One, you don't have to feverishly take notes during this if you don't want to. I'm not going to tell you how to live your life. If you do want to feverishly take notes, by all means, go ahead. One, as Sarah mentioned earlier, this is going to be recorded. But two, this is more about teaching you that there are ways to find information that don't require you to contact support. If you don't want to, you don't have the time to, or you can't. By all means, again, it's a great support team. We're happy to help you, but sometimes folks want to be able to do it on their own. And so I'm going to give you some tips and tricks on not only how to solve common problems, but how to figure out what to do in cases where it's something that you haven't seen before. So the three items that we're going to talk about today is updating fields. So that's a really common thing that a lot of customers call in about. Is there for if you're on the corporate edition or enterprise edition or one of our other ones, except for team, you can modify fields within your Bullhorn. And a lot of folks don't do that very often, or they lack confidence in how to do it, or it's complex. There are a ton of different fields out there. So we're going to talk at a really high level what to do when this issue comes up. The next one is locating records. So you may run a search, or you may have a candidate record, a job record, or something that you know is in the system and you can't find it, and you run into issues there. So we're going to take a look at a couple of different options on how to find records when you know they're there, but you're for some reason you're not able to locate them in Bullhorn. And the last one is email tracking. Now, the locating records issue and email tracking are both available. These are issues that come across all of our editions, right? So the email tracking is available to team, corporate, enterprise. Doesn't matter what version of Bullhorn you use. And that feature, though, not all of you may use it, but for those of you who do, it's a big deal with Bullhorn that it tracks your email automatically, pulls into the system, and sometimes things don't appear as expected. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at what do you do when that email tracking, whether it's the gadget itself or within the records, isn't working. Where do you even start? Do you just immediately call support and ask for help, or are there things you can do on your end to see if maybe it's something to do with your Outlook or your Gmail or something like that? So we're going to take a look at all of those. So the first thing that we're going to do here is I'm actually going to pull up Bullhorn and show you some cool stuff. So let me pull this over here. And so we're pulled into my Bullhorn here. And the first thing that I had mentioned is a common question or concern or issue is I'm updating fields and I don't know what to do. So for example here, if I click on Michelle here, what the common thing that folks call in about, the common situation is I need to add to a dropdown, or I need to add a custom field, or I need to remove a field or something along those lines. So there's a million different options and variations of that. Obviously, in the time that we have today, I'm not going to be able to go through all the variations, but I do want to show you where you can find the information to help you in whatever the specific case is for your company or your business. So the example I'm going to use today is the source dropdowns. You see on Michelle's record here, we've got a source dropdown. Maybe I've got a new source and I want to add it, but I don't know exactly how to go about it. What happens often with our administrators is they get thrown into the role. Maybe you didn't have training. Maybe you've never had to deal with it before, or you got your team and your company got everything set up beautifully when you first started with Bullhorn, but maybe you've changed tactics and you've never done a permanent hire before, and you're going to start bringing in permanent business or some other version of that, right? So you see, there are going to be needs to add fields, edit fields, change fields around. So my first recommendation is you hit before you're going to be very tempted to just jump into field mappings and just start changing stuff. You could easily go to the admin menu, hit field mappings, and just start playing with stuff. But the concern and the reason that folks call into support is that makes them nervous. They're scared they're going to break something. And so I want to show you how to build that confidence. And the way that you get that confidence to know that you're doing the right thing, one, you can always call Bullhorn and we can help. But if you don't have the time, you got this little help button up here in the top right-hand corner. Go ahead and click that, and that's going to go ahead and launch the Bullhorn community for you. Okay, so this is our resource for all of our knowledge documentation. It tells you how-to articles on everything that you can think of, and you're going to be very tempted in the beginning here. As anybody does when they come to a community like this or a help site. They go to help.bullhorn.com and they're like, I'm going to find the information and I'm going to knock this out. You'd be very tempted to just start searching for stuff. You're going to go in here and you're just going to type in fields and you're going to run your search and you're going to start seeing what happens, right? The issue or the concern with that is that there's going to be a million things to come back. And how do you know where to start? We're talking about somebody who, in this case, may be an admin that's never done it before, or maybe it's been a long time. There's a ton of articles to sift through, and you need help with that. So if you know you're one of those people, if you know you've been kind of thrown to the wolves, if you will, and you're the one that's got to figure out how to be an administrator, even though you never got fully trained or turned over, then you're actually going to want to start with training, okay? So if you go to this training tab, it's going to take you to a screen where you can log into our new Learning Hub. Now, if you've received any emails from us in the past couple of weeks or months, you've probably heard something about the Learning Hub. And this is our new e-learning solution. So it has a lot of options in here for videos and things like that. For any of your administrators, well, one, I would say check out our past webinars if you want more details about the Learning Hub. We have a whole webinar about it that'll dig into it for you. But the reason I'm talking about it now is this administrator course. Everyone, no matter what user you are, every user of Bullhorn has access to end user administrator manager training. And if you open up this administrator training, you'll notice that there's a couple of different options in here. Now, don't be freaked out because it's a 40-minute long video. I told you that this was gonna save you some time, and now I'm telling you to take a 40-minute long course. That's not exactly what I'm saying. What I recommend is you dig into the course and actually click into configuring here, and it actually breaks it out into individual videos for you. Let me make this a little bit smaller. You can actually go in and just pick and choose the actual videos within here. So if you know you're going to be updating and changing field values, adding custom fields to a record, you've never done it before at all, I highly recommend starting here. This is where it's going to help you build that confidence to know that you're doing the right thing. These individual videos within here are 2 or 3 minutes long, and it's going to walk you through all of your concerns. It's going to show you what to do. There's a bunch of different options in here. You don't have to do all of this all at once. You don't need to spend 40 minutes doing it. Now, do I recommend if you're a new administrator you take this whole course? Absolutely. But the nature of the reality of your job is you may not have the time to do that. So go in, pick and choose a few things. Watch the custom field one, watch the change in a field value ones before you jump into it. Build that confidence for yourself. Once you've done that, then you can go into the Bullhorn help site and start looking for the information. So one of the things that I want to highlight for you is this table of contents. So we talked about watching the video. I've watched the video. I feel much more confident about working in field mappings, but I still don't know which article to go to. I don't know where to start. the most important tip that you definitely want to write down or keep track of is this table of contents, this topic list, which is accessible from the Get Help page. Not a lot of folks use this. I said that you're going to be tempted to just run a search, but if you pause a second and you look at the topic list, this is your sort of cheat sheet for helping you in the areas of I don't know what I don't know. You can actually go in here and find everything that Bullhorn does, at least at a stock level, right? So we have marketplace partners and a few other things that may not have information in here because you've got something super custom. But for the majority of everything that Bullhorn can do out of the box, you're going to be able to find it within here and get answers. So if you actually click on field mappings here, it's going to bring you to something that's the field mappings topic, if you will. And this is every article related to field mappings. How do I add a drop down? How do I fill in fields? What about custom fields? And this will help you find more information so that you can build that confidence. And specifically, if we take a look at the adding a custom field article, it actually will walk you through all the different types. I mentioned earlier, there's a million different combinations, if you will. That's probably not an exact number, please don't quote me on that. But there's a lot of different options for different custom fields that you could need to build or work with. For example, you may want to add a field that has a template in it. You may want to create an anniversary field, or you might have a field where you want to create an additional phone number field beyond the ones that already exist. There's a lot of different options in here. So you can go ahead and go in and find the one that's relevant to you. If you want to create a custom field that lets you select other existing jobs, you can do that. Now, in this particular case, when I was talking about the source field, it's a drop down. So I want to go over to that real fast. I know I want to edit a drop down field. I could just go straight into Bullhorn and start messing around with stuff. I could go right in here and just type in source and just start changing things, right? But the reason that folks call in and have questions and concerns with support is they don't quite know what to do about all these, right? So it's in the source field, it is pretty straightforward. You go in and you can add additional sources here. But sometimes, if it's a custom field and it's not a standard field like source, I often find that customers will go in here and actually fill in both the value list and the display value list. And what's interesting with that, and why that's a common mistake that folks make, is they don't actually understand what the difference is. I mean, ask yourself, some of you on this call right now are administrators, and ask yourself, do you actually know the difference between a value list and a display value list? The documentation can tell you what that is and can explain it to you. So if we actually go down to within this article here that tells you how to add in a drop-down field, if we scroll down to the bottom, the actual creation of it's pretty straightforward, but there's this great table down here that explains everything about all of the fields, and we'll actually explain to you what the difference between the value list and display value list is. And this is important to know as an administrator, because, and I'm going to open this image in a new tab to make it a little bit easier to see, what it allows you to do is store values as one way and display them as another. So why is that helpful? Why do you want to do that? Well, you might want to have location codes. Maybe you have an integration or another system that you use, and the location or the branch or what have you is identified by a particular number or address, but you don't want your end users to have to remember that 789 equals Miami and that 074 equals Orlando. This allows you to store the information as a number, but see it as something that makes more sense. So there are some fields like the days field or weeks field. Maybe people don't think of time in the number of hours or the number of weeks, and they think of it in the number of days. And you can flip between those and have different values. It allows you, from a reporting standpoint, to do things a little bit differently, and also in another few integrations and things like that. So it's important to understand, and as you go through to create and update a field, that these fields mean something, that they have an impact. So oftentimes folks will not know the difference between the value list and display value list, go and just copy and paste into both fields because they're like, I want it to display, and so I'm going to put it in the value list and the display value list. Totally understandable thought process. I totally get why people do that, but by taking a few extra moments to think about, like, am I 100% confident in this? Do I know what these words actually mean? Hit the help button. Do a quick search for that field, or look at the topic list, and get yourself some information that's going to help you out in the long run. You're going to prevent errors. You're not going to break things, and you're only going to need to reach out to other folks, an account or support contact or support in the case of real messy issues or something like that. So when you update a field, again, you want to start with, if you don't know what you're doing at all, you want to start with the Learning Hub. You want to go in and do a little bit of training, get that confidence. Then take a look at your documentation. Use this table of contents. Use this topic list to help you when you don't know what you don't know, to help you figure out where all this other stuff is at, and where's all the documentation. Because while search is great and it's helpful, search is really meant for folks who already know what they're doing. I know what the article title is called, and therefore I just need to look it up again because I'm a little fuzzy. So that's it for updating a field. Again, you've got this great custom field here that can help you figure out what to do with any type of field, and that's a great reference to have. So let's talk about search at this point. So the next item on the list is search itself. So there's a lot of questions and concerns with the concept of search. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a search right now, and I'm going to run a search for a .NET developer. So I close, and I have it, that is like my bread and butter at my company. I'm knocking out .NET developers. It's like my little niche area that I'm great at. And so I know I have a million jobs for .NET developers. But when I go to actually run my search here, I'm confused because I can see that I only have one job listed in my find results when I know I have a ton of .NET developer jobs. And you can actually see it down in my placements. I have a bunch of .NET developer jobs here. So it doesn't make sense to me why only one is coming back. And if I go to my job list real quick and I do a filter for .NET, let me just filter my job titles by .NET real quick. I can see that there are a bunch. I can see if I select all here, I have 24 .NET developer jobs, but my search is only bringing back one. So my search is broken, clearly. Not necessarily. One of the important things to realize when you're working within the system is to ask yourself, what is the intention or why is something happening? You often call support and go, why is this like this? We have a lot of that information outlined for you in the community and in the Learning Hub. So you can take a moment if you don't want to hop on the phone and wait and connect with someone, or if that person isn't around that has the ability to do that, you can hop into the community again. And I had mentioned again that there are topics. So if you actually type in the word search in your search bar, it's going to begin to populate a bunch of records or a bunch of articles that you can look up. But again, there's that concern there of I don't really know if this is everything. And if I hit the enter button, it's actually going to give me like 900 records or 900 articles that I have to sift through. And I don't know which one I need. When in reality, if you take a little bit of a closer look here in this dropdown, you'll actually see that there are some things identified as topics. And so you can actually search for topics right from the search here, and it's going to bring you to this page here. And this is, again, all those records that are related to search. So as I have questions or weird things that come up that maybe are a little bit more specific, I wonder, how is a candidate score determined? Or what do I do about favorite searches? Or how do I search for candidates within a certain salary range? Or candidates for jobs? There's a ton of different options there. But what's really convenient is right here at the top, they're searching for records using find. So that's the first thing that's where I was having my issue, right? I use this find up here and I only see one job. So we're going to take a look at that particular article. So as we can see here, we've got an article on searching for records using find. And honestly, let's be frank for a second. I don't need someone to tell me how to use a search button. I kind of get that if I hit the find button and I hit enter, that it's going to search for me. So in the beginning here, this may or may not be helpful for you, but if we keep scrolling down a little bit, one, it's going to explain to me how these recent records work. This is a Novo feature, so if you're on S-Release, you may not see this. But for those of you using Novo, the recent records thing's pretty cool. That's great to know. But if I go further down, it's going to explain to me how the search works. So one of the things that's cool, something that I learned just by scrolling down and looking for the information, is I can search for a 10-digit phone number. I didn't know I could put phone numbers in the find to find a person. That's handy. I wasn't looking for that information, but that's nice to know. But if I keep going down here, again, actually get information for all the different types of records and other ways that I can search for information. So I can search for contacts using their email address and so on and so forth. But one of the things that I noticed for jobs here is that in certain situations, it only searches open jobs. And only in one case does it search open and closed jobs. So what's interesting with that, if I go back to my list here, I'm going to go to my job list, and I've got all my .NET developers. I'm going to actually filter it for open jobs. So let me filter that real quick. And we'll notice I get one job back, and the ID here ends in 938. And if I go to my find results, same deal, it's 938. So it's showing me only open jobs. And that's an important distinction for the find, is that it's not meant to replace your list views. It's not meant to be used where you need to filter through. So in my case, my use case where I have hundreds or dozens of jobs with the same title, because .NET developers is my bread and butter and that's how I make money, really searching for .NET developer isn't helpful in the find results. The find results is meant to, hey, I've got Michelle on the phone and I just need to pull her record up real fast, or I've got a particular hiring manager on the phone and I need to find that person. For jobs, what we had, the way it was designed is to say, I only want open jobs for right now. If I include all my closed jobs, I'm going to get dozens and dozens of results, and it's going to be hard for me to find. So if you need to find closed jobs, you have two options. One, you need to use the job number, because it does search job open and closed jobs. So I could take one of the closed jobs and search the job number within here, and I'll find it. Or just stick to the list view. This is why the list view exists, and that's the difference between the find and the list view. The find is about real quick, I got a phone call, I just need to pull this up. I can't filter on things, I can't really do a lot with these tables, so if I don't have a really refined search or a really specific term, I might struggle with that. So instead, I'm going to use my list view, I'm going to go in and I'm going to filter for .NET and I'm going to move on, right? So that's really helping me to understand in what cases do I use this search, what cases do I use the find. Additionally, we want to simplify things for you, right? So it's not the easiest to remember exactly what fields are going to be searched and how they're going to be searched. So we actually put a link right in here for you. It can help with optimizing your search results. It'll take you right to that topic that I just showed you. You don't have to remember where that's at. You don't need the URL, right? You can just open up the search box and it tells you right here, get help, and it'll open that up for you. Additionally, you can just click the help button or go to help.bullhorn.com and start typing in the word search. You'll find that information. It's really important that when you work with yourself or with others who maybe are less experienced with Bullhorn, and you may be the expert, you may know everything inside and out about Bullhorn, but you don't have the time to show this new person in your office the nuances of how to save a favorited search, then just tell them, go to help.bullhorn.com or click the help button and try it and take a look. And most times they'll be able to find the information. It's just they're going to try and do that search. So remember that table of contents. It's super helpful to find the information that you're looking for. So the last item in search, so within search, there's a couple of different ways that you can approach it, and understanding the difference between find and the difference between an actual list search and filtering is super helpful when you're thinking that something is not acting as you expected it to. And then you can take that extra step of going to the help button right up in your top right hand corner, or going to help.bullhorn.com and finding, okay, this is weird to me, let me take a look real fast. Now the next item that's on our list here is email tracking. So I had mentioned before that not everyone uses email tracking, but it is a massively popular tool that we have. So the vast majority of people do. So if your company does, you know exactly what I'm talking about. We've got the candidate record here. I click on emails, and emails that I send and receive outside of Bullhorn, in my Outlook or in my Gmail, track into my Bullhorn. Super handy for keeping an eye on what's going on with our contacts and candidates, and knowing what other conversations are happening. It's great. But sometimes emails don't track, and it's you know you sent an email, or you've got pieces of a chain missing, and you're like, what's going on here? Is my email integration broken? And that is very much something that causes folks to call support, because it's email. It can be a little scary. It's technical. And if you don't have your IT person right next to you, you might panic and want to call support. And again, definitely call support if that is helpful to you. But if we take a look in our community, there's actually a whole section on the email integration. And if I scroll down here, not only is there, here's how I set up the email integration, which is all listed here, but there's a troubleshooting email integration article that can help you know, okay, how does it actually work, and should it, should I even expect my email here? What are the things that I could try? So it lists all the details here. I'm not going to sit here and read an article to you all. I highly recommend taking a look at this, but it actually will walk you through. Let me just see if it's broken. There's a very easy way to do that, and it'll walk you through those steps, and then it'll talk you through common issues. So a really common one for email tracking, for example, if you're in S release, there's an owner dropdown at the top. So you go to the activity tab, there's a little owner dropdown here. This is a sticky field, and a lot of folks will select Oliver training here, like you see on my screen, and they'll be confused when emails from Vancouver aren't appearing in the list. Well, it's honestly, it's as simple as you need to toggle the owner dropdown from a filter that you previously set to something else, and it's a very common fix that is easy to miss. And so it'll walk you through other options. Things like duplicate records can be a problem. And this will talk you through a couple of things. So these are the common things where if you could talk to support, these are going to be the first things that they tell you to do, the first things that they tell you to take a look at. It's all outlined here for you if you don't have the ability to contact support, or you don't have the ability or time to get on the phone at that moment. So we've talked about email tracking, we've talked about custom fields, and we've talked about searching. Now, at this point, I want to open it up to questions because I know we're coming right up on the end here. So I'm going to pause here for a second. Sarah, are there any questions coming through?
There are indeed. We've got several. Our first is, if my email integration needs to be checked, do I need Bullhorn Support's help with that?
So again, like I said, it's a great question of do I just immediately go to support? You can. There's nothing saying that you don't go to support, right? But with this article, this gives you the first couple of things to check for, right? But at some point, you might think that your actual email integration is broken. So what that means is your Outlook or your Gmail isn't sending you that email, or isn't sending that email to Bullhorn. And there's an actual process down here in this troubleshooting article where if it tells you to check the actual integration article. And if you open one of these integration articles, they do get technical, and you'll need your IT support. You don't actually need Bullhorn support to do it for you. In fact, they can't. It needs to be somebody that has access to your Microsoft Outlook or your Gmail. And so you'll want to connect. You might want to connect IT and support, but really just start with your IT team and send them these articles and say, hey, can you verify that this is set up correctly? And if they struggle, then definitely connect your IT and your support and the Bullhorn support team, and they can help them get through troubleshooting that on the technical side.
Great, thanks, Brian. Our next question is, I like the table of contents, but I don't know how to find it. Where is it?
That is a great question. So when you actually open up the homepage, so when you click on that help button or you go to help.bullhorn.com, it's going to drop you right here on this Get Help page. And if you scroll down, again, don't be distracted by that search box, right? You're gonna be tempted to just start typing stuff in. It's a Google thing, right? You just want to search for it. But if you scroll down a little bit, we've got some buttons down here. And view all topics is right here. That's how you find that. The other option that you can do is once you're on the actual page, it does have a standard URL, just bookmark it. So when you land here, scroll down a little bit, find the view all topics button, or just bookmark the actual page itself and use that as your landing page. You don't have to go through the help button if you don't want to. You can bookmark any of these articles. You can save them anywhere that you want and always visit them separately from having it. You don't have to go through that help button. You can just go to help.bullhorn.com and find the information that way too.
Awesome. And our next question is there a phone format requirement for fast find searching with a candidate's phone number?
So anytime that you're going to search for phone numbers, you actually want to remove any extra characters, right? So your parentheses and your dashes and your dots and all that, just remove all that. Just start typing in just the numbers, and you should start being able to find that. That also, though, depends on how those phone numbers are stored in your system, which is important. So if you're not using the phone number fields, or you're putting them in a unique way, coding them with extra information, or maybe you have an extension because you got to dial 9 to get out, you might need to do a couple of different approaches to see what works depending on how you're storing that information.
Awesome. Thank you, Ryan. So I think that we're going to call it there for today's webinar as we're right up against the half hour. But as a reminder, we will be sharing the webinar recording with all attendees within the next 24 hours or so. And then for the questions that we don't have time to get to, we're going to follow up via email on those. So for additional training resources, don't forget to log into the Learning Hub through the customer community at help.bullhorn.com. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.